Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good. Kyrie Irving from downtown. The three, steps back, crossover, puts up a three. Rebound James. Seconds. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
Cleveland, this is for you.
What's up, Cavs fans? We miss you guys. It's been a while. Welcome to an episode of the Block the Shot to Stop. Here with Skylar Webker, I am Kevin Lynch. We are kind of getting into our off-season Cavs content tonight, where, as a reminder, we're going to be doing a weekly episode every Tuesday. If anything major happens, we will certainly get on and do some additional content to that. So we'll make sure we cover the draft as it gets closer. But for right now, it'll be every Tuesday. You can expect to see us in your feed. Skylar, how are you doing other than being in withdrawal from Cavs basketball?
Well, I'm a lot in a better headspace from having that time off since the last Cavs game. Had some time to reflect on the series, some time to kind of evaluate what this team needs, what the next level is. Just a little more clarity than the hot-headedness and sadness that we were faced with in that series against the Pacers.
For sure. I don't think everyone's gotten to your level yet. I've started to get there as well, though. And time heals all wounds, right? So
exactly.
Yeah, like we the bulk of this episode will be like kind of what could the Cavs do next year. We're not going to get into like, super hot takes and everything. And no offense, Skylar, neither of us are smart enough to like know the salary cap and the aprons to like actually propose real trades that we're positive will work. But we at least want to kind of speculate on some things that have already been out there, as well as we're going to look at the four remaining playoff teams. Like, what do they have that the Cavs don't have that maybe are part of the reason that they're playing in the conference finals and the Cavs are at home? So, but we're going to start with the big one that has been going around, and it's been gaining steam just in the rumor mill. I don't know if it's gaining steam in the actual real life world, but the rumors of the Cavs pursuing getting Giannis Antetokounmpo. Just for a little bit of backdrop, Milwaukee is in kind of a horrible place basketball wise, and I don't mean that offensively, but like with Dame Lillard's going to be out next year, they have an aging team. Their salary cap is a mess, and so it's kind of that situation that if you have a superstar, they might want to get out and go to a team where they can have a better chance of competing for a championship. And also the team may want to, kind of do a reset and get, a massive haul for someone like Giannis. And so with that, there's been a few teams rumored for Giannis, like the Spurs are one, the Rockets are another, and then the Cavs are one. And I think the reason that the Cavs are one is because Milwaukee doesn't have any of their own draft picks, they can't do the traditional tank. They more want to cash Giannis in for good young players where they can be good quicker than do a, multi-year tank. So with that, Skylar, before we even get into scenarios, how do you think Giannis would look in a Cavs jersey?
I think he would look great in wine and gold. He's a top 5 player in the league. Has been a top 5 player in the league. If you have the opportunity to get him, I think you do it. But I think you're cautious on what it takes to get him, especially because, we've talked about this. The build of this team has been a slow burn, slow process. They build over time. They say, hey, we bet on ourselves. We bet on our longevity. We bet on kind of just this thing. Like they've been all in on this core the entire time. And I don't know how much Kobe Altman would be willing to give up on that dream for Giannis.
No, and it's fair. And all we can do is speculate because we're not Kobe Altman or in the front office or anything. But I think, and we were talking a little bit, off air. And first of all, we should preface this by saying we love every single member of the Cleveland Cavaliers, but Giannis is an all-time player and everything. So we both agreed if you can hold on to both Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley and then somehow get Giannis, you have to do that. You agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. If you keep those two guys for sure, everybody else is on the table.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. And so Then the question comes down to, which is what the current rumor is, and what most likely Milwaukee would hold out for is, we will trade you Giannis, but the main part of the package has to be Evan Mobley and coming back to Milwaukee. It's a tough one, first of all, because Evan Mobley is beloved by all of Cavs Nation. He also this year took the step from very good to star, and you can only imagine what more he could potentially accomplish in his career at only 23 years old. But Giannis is Giannis at an all-timer and so in his prime. So you, for the next 5 minutes, are the GM of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Milwaukee calls you and says, there may be a few other things we have to work out to make the trade work, but basically we'll give you Giannis for Evan Mobley. What do you say, Skylar?
I don't think I agree. I don't take that deal. I think, you are getting the generational player. You're getting a guy that theoretically you hope can take you to the next level immediately, where Evan Mobley is more of, we've already seen the leap to, a very good basketball player to all NBA team, defensive player of the year. Like we've seen this astronomical jump just this year, and he's still 24. He's still 10 years younger than Giannis.
He's 6 years younger. Okay.
Is he 24?
He's 23, 24. Giannis is only 30.
Yeah, he'll be 31 this season. Okay. Yeah,
right.
I had it pulled up. So you're getting a lot more, or you have a lot longer of a runway and a trackway for Evan Mobley but Giannis is definitely the heavy favorite to win next year.
Yeah. And we kind of predicted this, but I'm going to take the other side and respectfully disagree. I think I'm a you only got today type of person, right? And yes, Evan Mobley could potentially be your ticket to have a winning team for the next 7, 8, 9 years, whatever it is. And I think the world of Evan Mobley. I think he could continue to develop into one of the best players in the league, but Evan Mobley's absolute ceiling isn't as good as Giannis is right now. That's my opinion. And the other thing is, by the time Evan Mobley to his peak, which usually NBA players start entering their prime around 26, 27 years old, that's 3 to 4 years from now. Donovan Mitchell's going to be past his prime by then. Who knows what the rest of the Cavs roster looks like? They're not going to have many draft picks over the next 4 or 5 years to bring in reinforcements. So I think more than we maybe would have thought coming into this year and even throughout the year, the Cavs window is right now for maybe the next 2 years. And then there's a lot of question marks after that.
You're trying to sway me in on this now. You're just swaying me in because of you want to have people's primes line up, and Donovan Mitchell's clearly in his prime.
Right.
You're going to get a prime Giannis. So that would be incredible to watch. The only worry I have with Giannis is the miles on him, the injury, or injuries that he's kind of mounted up through the playing time. And that's not a knock on Giannis. All NBA players kind of get these things piled up on him, especially when he's been playing in the league since he's 18 or whatever it was. So, I mean, he's been in the league for a while. So that would be the only concern I would have, or hesitation around Giannis. You just hate to cash in the tomorrow's riches for today's pay.
No, I get it. I get it. It is incredibly tough. I will say, even if I'm taking one side, I will say my only real fear with Evan Mobley, and I was having this conversation with some other Cavs content guys, the guys from Playback. I don't know if Evan Mobley believes how good he's going to be, or if he wants it bad enough, if that makes sense. If you look back at least at Giannis's prime, I guarantee there's not very many or any games where he only took 13 shots or less in a playoff game. Evan Mobley didn't take more than 13 shots in any playoff game this year. I still am a little bit concerned about Evan Mobley's aggressiveness. I think he has the skill set. I think he has everything he could want. Just that kind of, unmeasurable ability to want to apply your force against other players in the playoffs. That to me, especially watching this year, it seems to be what's separating a lot of players and a lot of teams from one another. And I've yet to see that from Evan. Evan's super young, so it could very well be coming, but I have no doubt that Giannis will, take someone's heart out for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you're getting. You're getting a playoff guy, somebody that we, in that demeanor that we talked about the last time that we were on, playoff dudes. And you're right. I think that this year, it's obvious who the playoff dudes are and why those teams separated themselves once the playoffs started.
Yeah, and for me, the thing with Giannis, and there's a million reasons you can say you love Giannis as a player and everything. I will never forget the Game 6 of the NBA Finals when Milwaukee won against Phoenix 3 years ago. He was struggling with an injury kind of off and on. I believe it was a calf injury for some of that playoffs. It looked like all the momentum was swinging back to the Suns and Milwaukee might be in trouble. And then in Game 6, Giannis goes out and has one of the best performances in NBA Finals history.
Yeah.
50 points on 64% shooting, 14 rebounds, 5 blocks on the defensive end. You talk about dominating every single inch of the court. That was one of the best performances I've ever seen by a basketball player. And I'm somebody who followed LeBron for his whole career. Right. So when you're putting that game up there with just about any game LeBron's ever produced, which is a million, great ones, that to me sets over top. And I honestly think if they made this trade, Mobley for Giannis, the Cavs are the favorite in the East next year. And second isn't that close.
Would you feel better if they did, some 3-team blockbuster and kind of the pieces that were left with the Cavs were Mitchell, Mobley, Giannis? How good would you feel about that team?
I think that's amazing. I just don't think it's attainable, to be honest. The first thing I do when a trade's going to happen, I immediately put myself in the other team's fans or GM shoes, right? And if I'm Milwaukee and I'm trading with Cleveland, I trade Giannis to Cleveland and I don't get Mobley back, I get anything else, I'm irate. I don't see any reason that, they would do that. I mean, and mostly because the Cavs don't have draft picks either to trade, or hardly any to trade. If they had all their draft picks, that might be different, but I would be over the moon if they could get Giannis without trading Mobley. I just don't think it's feasible.
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely take a third team. Let's just pick let's just say Utah, because they got a war chest of draft picks.
Right.
You send Jared Allen and Darius Garland to Utah. Utah sends whatever salary match is needed and draft picks to Milwaukee. And then Milwaukee gets their draft picks. They get some guys. They start the engine of kind of their retool, rebuild, reset.
Yeah. And as I started the podcast with, I don't know enough about the aprons to know how well that would work or not work. But yeah, I mean, that's a thought. I think the Cavs have a really good roster and not much else to trade. And so that to get a superstar like Giannis, I don't see him getting it without Mobley. But time will tell. I think the good news for the Cavs fans the Cavs will almost 100% either have Evan Mobley or Giannis on their team next year, and that's a pretty good place to be. And we'll see how it plays out. But we wanted to move on to kind of our other topic that we want to address tonight, and that's what's kind of happening in the conference finals right now, and more specifically, these 4 teams left, which are OKC, Minnesota, the Knicks, and the Pacers. What do they have maybe that the Cavs don't have that maybe has caused them to be able to advance to the conference finals, advance further than the Cavs? And is there something that maybe the Cavs could like learn from these teams that they could, add onto their roster next year, whether it's internal developments, trades, scheme, whatever. So Skylar, I'll let you start. Is there something that you've kind of noticed with these 4 teams that you'd like the Cavs to try and emulate for next season?
Not nice guys. Like they got guys out there that are not there out there to be your friend. They got guys out there that, like we said, playoff dudes that they are out there to rip your heart out. You look at Ant Edwards, you look at Tyrese Halliburton, you look at Jalen Brunson. Like those guys are out there to. You look at SAG and those guys. Like they're out there to be a menace, to put pressure on, to up the intensity, to make you shaky. And I think that's what the Cavs ran into, is that they got the pressure put on them to make them shaky. And Indiana just took advantage of that. Also, with how Indiana has played New York, I do not feel bad about losing to Indiana. I think Indiana is they're making it to the finals this year.
Yeah. You use the key word, it's pressure. I believe in the playoffs, one of 2 things is happening. Either you're applying pressure to the other team or the other team is applying pressure to you. And the Cavs very unfortunately got pressure applied to them more than they did it in the playoffs. Like I would say the one way they apply pressure is Donovan Mitchell relentlessly attacking the basket. That is a way you put pressure on the other team, but they didn't have enough coming from other avenues besides that. In Indiana, for example, what they did to the Cavs, they pressured the Cavs full court all game long to where, and they caused some turnovers out of it, but more so they just wore the Cavs down. The Cavs did not respond to that pressure. Like I will tell you, when I unfortunately had a sinking feeling about that series was in game 2. The Cavs were winning by double digits. And I think I said this on the podcast before, but it's worth repeating. All of a sudden, Donovan Mitchell and Ty Jerome are in the game because Darius Garland isn't playing, but neither of them want to bring the ball up because they're sick of trying to bring the ball up against Nembhard and Neesmith. So about 7 or 8 times in a row, Isaac Okoro brings the ball up. I don't think Isaac Okoro brought the ball up the court 7 or 8 times all season, but
when he's done all his career.
Yeah, but basically the Cavs are Halliburton was guarding Okoro, and Halliburton is the one guy that wouldn't put full court pressure on you. So the Cavs basically said, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I don't want to deal with your pressure, so I'm going to avoid it instead of put pressure. Instead of doing the thing where you're going to put pressure on me, I'm going to try and blow by you in the backcourt and get a number situation going the other way to kind of make it hurt, try and change the trajectory of the pressure, right? So that is the thing I think, and to be specific with what the Cavs need is perimeter defense, perimeter defense that is putting pressure on the other team. If you look at these 4 teams remaining, I think they're the 4 teams with the best perimeter defense in the NBA. Sans maybe Boston, but Boston was kind of worn out and injured and everything, so it's a little different. But you run down the teams the Pacers with Nembhard and Neesmith, and they bring in McConnell and all kinds of pressure. The Knicks have fantastic perimeter defenders with Josh Hart's, Miles Bridges, OG Anunoby. And then you go over to the West, Minnesota, Jaden McDaniels, Anthony Edwards, both phenomenal defenders. Alexander Walker is as well. And then basically OKC's whole team is phenomenal defenders, right? That can defend on the perimeter. And so, and that is, honestly, it's kind of what we knew about the Cavs all season. That was kind of their weak point, was the perimeter defense. That was something that DeAndre Hunter was supposed to be part of the solution for when he came in. I would argue that he was a solution for some things, but not that. And so I think that's what you need. Alex Caruso had an amazing quote today. I don't know if you heard this, but he said NBA teams aren't looking for the CFO anymore. They're looking for guys that take out the trash, which that analogy basically means they're not looking for stars. They're looking for guys who will do all the dirty work and do it at a high level that fit in NBA game, today's
Yeah.
NBA game. Alex Caruso is one of those guys in his own analogy about like taking out the trash. And I don't think the Cavs have, as good of as many guys to do that stuff. And I'm going to turn it back to you with this, Skylar. I think the Cavs have too many specialists on their team, meaning guys who are really good at one end of the floor or one specific thing and aren't two-way players. You look at these teams left, they have a lot of two-way players, guys who contribute on offense and defense. You look at the Cavs, I would argue Evan Mobley is the only person who is an above average offensive and defensive player. Everyone else is really good on one end and not as good on the other. Would you agree or disagree with that? Say if it's a 10-point scale, I say Evan Mobley is the only one who's above a 6 on both offense and defense.
I would say Evan Mobley is above an 8 on both. I think you could slide Hunter and Jared Allen kind of above there. Not Jared Allen in the sense of like is a 3-level scorer, but he has a great field goal percentage. He gets to the rim. He's efficient when he gets to the rim and gets to shoot. But I would agree. I think there's a gap there of dirty work guys, two-way guys, and unfortunately, the Cavs are now kind of not in a great situation where they're a second apron team after the DeAndre Hunter trade. They can't afford to really go out and get somebody, and they're on the precipice of losing two specialists in Sam Merrill and Ty Jerome, and don't really have a way to replenish other than you hope the guys that you have in the G League and drafted, or you can get somebody on a minimum, is able to fill that role.
Yeah, and I think there's not guys on the roster that can fill, and we're pivoting a bit, but that's okay because I like this. They don't have guys that can fill exactly what Ty Jerome or Sam Merrill did, but guys that maybe come in and fill those roles in different ways. Maybe Jalen Tyson comes in. He's not going to be the 3-point shooter that Sam Merrill is, but he can contribute more on both ends of the floor and, rebound better and play better defense and be more athletic. Same kind of thing with, Craig Porter Jr. He's not going to be the offensive player that Ty Jerome was, especially the shooter that Ty Jerome was. But maybe because he is so much more athletic, he can contribute in other ways. He's definitely a higher level defender than Ty Jerome is. So I think there is opportunities for guys, on the lead team to like kind of step up into spots. But at the same time, I do think this Cavs roster is missing something from being a championship team. I don't know exactly how they get it, but I will say one thing I was like, everybody always says they go in the trade machine and this doesn't work because this trade doesn't work because this trade doesn't work because this. Let me tell you something. The most deadline trades in NBA history was done this year under the apron rules. The teams will find a way. If they want to make a trade, they will find a way around the dollars and cents and the, picks and exceptions and whatever else they need to do to get trades done. And I believe the Cavs won't be able to make every move that they'd like to make, particularly free agent wise. But I think if they really have their hearts out and we need to make a move in the trade market, that they'll find a way to get it done.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at, there are so many second apron teams and so many people are able to, like you said, get creative about it. You can still make deals with other second apron teams, and look how many second apron teams like Milwaukee, like Phoenix, that are kind of falling out of the sky. Those are teams that you could probably do business with to help either in their issues and improve your team.
Yeah, no, for sure. But yeah, I think that's a moral of the story for me with the Cavs is I think they need more guys that can contribute on both ends of the floor and do it in a way where they're applying force in the playoffs. That's like Rob Mahoney, the Athletic, said I really liked it. He's like the biggest differentiator in the playoffs is just your ability to apply force to your opponent versus them applying it to you. And I think it's so true because shooting's going to come and go, other things happen, but you look the playoffs, these playoffs are so physical. Anybody who says like, oh, these guys wouldn't survive in the 80s or 90s, like this is as physical as any time in NBA history.
I don't think the
It's
80s and
crazy.
90s would survive this.
I
Are physical.
I completely agree. And it's kind of crazy that the NBA is so different, like almost two different games, regular season versus playoffs. It makes it hard to navigate being successful at both. But that's a task at hand. The Cavs are in a great position. They're definitely in the right conference. That like next year with Boston being down, like I think the East is going to be just really, really weak beyond a few teams. I think the Pacers and the Knicks are both very good teams and have a great chance to be good again next year. I think Orlando has a chance to kind of come up a little bit, but I would much, much rather be there. I mean, you look at the West is crazy. The top 2 picks in the draft, like, Cooper Flagg's going to be in the West. Like the East, especially if Giannis gets traded to the West, like, I hope they don't do East versus West in the All-Star game because that won't be very fun to watch.
Is the All-Star game very fun to watch at all?
Yeah, I guess that's true. That's an excellent point. Well, I think that's most of what we wanted to cover here. Obviously this conversation about what the Cavs will do in the offseason will continue. We'll keep our ear to the ground. If, rumors start flying, we'll bring them around and kind of, see what we think of them. And if anything kind of crazy happens, we'll jump on the mics as soon as it does. Skylar, you have any thoughts before we sign off for the week and we're fully entered into the Cavs off season now?
I'm hopeful. I feel good having Kobe Altman. I mean, he hasn't made any moves to make me fearful. I think he's going to get creative. I think he knows what this team needs. And it'll be fun to watch.
I agree. I think that's one of their biggest strengths right now is Kobe Altman. He, as we talked about, they built the team slowly, but he also moved when it was time to move, right?
Yep.
Like with the Donovan Mitchell trade, and Jared Allen trade, with the DeAndre Hunter trade this year. So I think Kobe, I'm sure he's debating it right now, and maybe the right answer is to run it back, but I'm sure he's like looking to see like what is the best possibility. So I think Kobe Altman is a huge strength for the Cavs, and we'll see kind of what he does throughout the offseason. So with that, Cavs fans, we're here for you. We're gonna do Cavs content all offseason. We're gonna come back. We're gonna start doing like season reviews. We're gonna do player profiles, like on each player on the team, how they had this, how good they were this year, and what we could expect for them next year. We're going to do some collaborations with, get some other Cavs contenters, I guess, that we're going to do some things with. And we're also this summer, when it's truly dead basketball time, we're going to do some fun episodes. So for Skylar Webker, I am Kevin Lynch. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Block the Shot to Stop in the off season. And as always,
go Cavs.